Hey everybody, it's Chris from Beer Bearings, and I want to thank you for joining me again here on the YouTube channel. I'm today with Jeff Fountain from New Heights Brewing Company in Nashville, Tennessee. Hey Jeff, thanks for joining me today. You're in the midst of the COVID-19 stay-at-home like everybody else. Before we hit record, I saw a little boy running around there, and I know your wife is trying to take care of them. I know you got two of them, right? So
two of them.
I'll try to keep this short enough that you can get back to your family, and I really appreciate you taking the time.
The longer I'm down here, the longer I'm in a safe zone.
Fair enough. Hey, so let's do the easy thing first. I asked you to bring a beer, and I would be willing to bet you brought a New Heights beer. So
absolutely.
You can talk about that one, and I'll talk about mine here in a minute, and we'll crack them up.
All right, yeah, so this is Mr. Crantastic. As a little play on Mr. Fantastic, I guess we kind of get playful with some of the names and whatnot. But it's a cranberry, blood orange, and ginger sour. So
sounds
easy,
delicious.
sessionable, day drinking beer, even though it's pretty gloomy outside. But
sounds delicious. So mine is actually a collaboration because, you know, it's a twofer. And it's a collaboration between Miel Brewery and Parlo Beer Lab here in town. I know you've been down here a couple of times, so you might have been to one or both of these. And this one is called Down is Up. It's the Parlo half of the collab, and they just used, it's an India Pale Lager, and they used all Southern Hemisphere, undisclosed Southern Hemisphere hops to dry hop this one. So I'm looking forward to that. It's a good 2 o'clock in the afternoon on a weekday beer as well.
there you go.
And I got a tulip because you're never wrong with a tulip. If it's a lager hop like an IPA, you don't know what glass you're supposed to use, right? So there's that. So cheers, man. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate it. As I always say, there's always time to have a sip of beer when you're doing an interview. So you took an interesting path. You're from Alabama. You made your way out to San Diego, and then you're now in Nashville. You opened up New Heights, I think, back in 2016. Stop me wherever I'm wrong. And it sounded like to me Nashville was a pretty intentional choice. So tell me a little bit about that path.
Yeah, growing up in Alabama, I knew a little bit about craft beer. It was a little bit of, I hate to even say it, but it was like Hoegaarden, Blue Moon, and then some Sweetwater, and then the Sweetwater was kind of, where we got into it. But this was 14, 15 years ago before it really took off, there as well. And moved to San Diego, and it was like, what is this thing called beer? It was like, what is this? I had been in banking and finance for 13, 14 years, and literally within probably 6 to 8 months of being there, ran into some friends that were home brewing and got a homebrew kit, and within 6 months left banking and finance and was brewing and volunteer brewing in different breweries. Some that I knew that probably would never pay me, but it kind of got me my foot in the door, got to learn the process, got to go to the festivals, meet the peoples, and, do all that kind of stuff. So did that for a little bit, and then ended up at Mission Brewery in San Diego, where I kind of got my teeth cut professionally, while homebrewing with the Mash Heads out in San Diego. So we were exposed to a lot of different stuff, pretty instantly. So it got us thinking, why not us? Let's try this. And being from Alabama, we wanted to get closer to home before opening a brewery, because you put up roots, you don't move again, right?
So yeah, it looks like you brought a crew with you from San Diego. It wasn't just you and your wife.
Yeah. So New Heights, in our apex before Corona, we were 8 people.
Okay.
We started out. I was homebrewing, in my garage. Dustin lives 3 doors down, same apartment complex, and he's basically a chef. He's looking into a food truck, and I'm brewing, and we're chit chatting, and then the 4 of us were just like, let's do it. And we're like, all right, let's find a spot. We went and visited Atlanta, and we were just like, it just didn't feel quite right. And then all 4 of us took a trip to Nashville. And something was just right. I mean, and like I say, it just, so we, like I said, went back, turned in a notice, did a little traveling, was here 3 months later. We had no idea that we were like one of 150 people moving here that day. We had no idea, but seriously, but we ended up here, and we love it.
So you've been opened up since 2016. Tell me a little bit about the brewery.
So when we opened, we have a 15-barrel brew house. When we started with 4 30-barrel fermenters. So when you're not known, that's a lot of beer. But once you start getting your beer out there, and everything, it's we actually, we grew a little bit, but you still. So we do a cream ale, which is one of our number one. It's one of our core 4. It's called Nothing Fancy. It's easy drinking lawnmower beer. It's basically a lager. But we can turn that beer in 10 to 12 days as opposed to 60, 70, 80. When we do a lager, it typically goes 80, 90 days. And that's sitting in a tank in one of the few tanks we have for a long time. So yeah, we definitely lean, we lean high ABV. We lean, stouts, IPAs, sours.
You went directly, it looked like to me, directly into distribution. Is that right? That's kind of unusual.
We did. So during the build out, we're doing everything, we're getting going. The one oops was the installation of the boiler. So that was a big oops. We were ready to brew beer, and all we had to do was have hot water. So it delayed our tasting room opening a little bit. So we were ready to brew beer. So we went ahead and started brewing in May 23rd, 2016. And then we actually opened our tasting room 6 months later, right before Thanksgiving, November 23rd, I believe it was, 2016. So
well, that's one of the biggest bar days in the world, or like the day before, right around Thanksgiving, so you certainly picked a good time.
Yeah, well, and we were like, do we get approved today? Do we get approved next week? We got approved. It's like, oh, it's open,
So let's talk. We're sitting here quite literally in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic, the COVID-19 pandemic. What's going on in Nashville? Is it a hot spot? Is it, a little bit better under control?
It seems to be fairly under control. It is a lot going on. There's a lot shut down. There's probably 50% face masks out there. It's easy to get to and from work when you have to get out. Realistically, we're probably another 3-4 weeks from, any bit of, I guess, relief whatsoever. The interesting thing about Nashville with the COVID is we had the hurricane or the tornadoes that hit 3 weeks prior. A lot of our friends and families lost, their businesses. We get a lot of our spices and tea from a place called High Garden in East Nashville. It was destroyed. Smith and Lentz, our friends, their brewery, it was destroyed. A couple of others had, loss of power and this and that, which destroyed some beers and whatnot. And then, all of a sudden this happens.
Yeah.
Our distribution company was hit. I guess everybody's kind of been dealt a little bit of a different hand or different cards, where you're at with your spending or where you're at with your brew process or whatnot. For us, it was kind of interesting. We had filled the tanks, our 260s, our 430s. We had filled them. We had sent it to Best Brands, our distribution company. And then the next week, the tornadoes hit. And it's all gone.
Yeah.
And we're like, oh, crap, let's brew. So we fill up every tank. COVID, nothing to do with the beer now.
Right.
So, we're trying to get creative with different things and, move it that way. And something that we had never seen or heard of anybody doing, I got to thinking one night as I'm having a beer or two, I'm like, we've got all these tanks full of beer and it's the same stuff. How are we going to continue selling, curbside to our patrons that can't come in and sit and have a social experience with their friends? So we've got all this extra beer, and we decided to start doing custom crowlers, which is basically a spinoff of the Randalls that were a while back.
Right.
We're actually filling tea bags with coconut, putting it in 3 or 4 different styles of beer, from hazy IPAs, imperial stouts, coffee, cream ales. This week we're doing one that has root beer spices that's going into a stout. So we're just doing a lot of different things with stuff that we have, mixing it up. So
getting creative with it. That's what craft beer is all about, right? Get creative.
Keeping it fun.
And yeah.
we were just thinking, we were like, how can we have all this, how can we make it different? How can the consumer have a little bit of a say so? And we're going to continue to increase it, and then they can almost let us tomato, pick and choose. So
okay.
We'll see. But we're controlling the flavors. So we're testing about 30 crowlers a week right now, different steep times and everything. And we're trying to make everything fit that 36-hour time frame for the steeping so that we can somewhat control the flavor you're getting the way that we always do it before we send it out. This is a little bit different, right?
That's something you think you'll maybe continue?
I know those who are stuffing the tea bags hope not. But
fair point.
But who knows? Who knows? Who knows?
That's a fair point. This is a truly handmade, right? I mean, these are one-off.
I mean, you are tying each of them, 4 of them, into an Imperial Stout crowler.
Yeah, and I'm sure they're carefully measured and weighed out and everything.
Oh, they are. Yeah.
But
you got your little gram scales. You got the masks. We're all.
That's got to be a little bit tedious, but whatever you got to do, right?
What else are we going to do, right?
Right. Well, and you're trying to make sure you get that beer out to the people, which is important. You raised a really interesting point that I don't think anybody else has brought up, which is you say people can't come to your tasting room and have that communal experience, right? They can't sit around with their friends. And that's what beer is all about. I mean, beer brings people together, right? So that's something that everybody's missing right now. Any inkling from either state government or Nashville or anything like that when things do go back to normal, whatever that's going to look like, how separation is going to be done or what you're looking at?
Not really, and they're starting to do some opening phases right now. We don't know exactly what that's going to mean for us, but we feel like it'll probably be outside, no more than 4 people for, picnic table, just stuff that we're kind of, thinking, getting all the servers, bandanas or masks, having, maybe serving in styrofoam, maybe serving, if you get tasters, you put your stuff in the thing and no one else touches it,
Right.
There's going to be a lot of things that we're going to have to look at and see how we're going to let it, but it's obviously going to be a staged approach, and we're just kind of waiting right now, but we're anticipating a lot of it, but waiting.
Other than sort of obvious things, right? Like come and support the brewery by buying beer on site, maybe buy gift cards. What are the things that you would tell people, are the best ways to support their local brewers during this crisis?
Just, get out and do it. Just if you're sitting around the house and you don't know what you're doing for dinner tonight, call your favorite restaurant, get something to take out, because it is personal for us. And, you struggle when things are good, as a small business. And then when, something's dealt outside of your control like this, it hurts a little bit more. So it definitely helps to get the pickup from the friends and family that come around, the mug clubbers, the normals that have been coming in and purchasing a lot of gift cards. I mean, we've had several mug clubbers come in and buy $500,000-$600,000 gift cards.
What do you think on the other side of this you will be able to do as far as production is concerned, or is your distribution going to remain roughly the same? Do you have any idea?
It's going to be a slow uptake, just because, Nashville was, it was a train. That was it was a steamrolling train, and for everything to just stop, I don't know. I think it's going to take a few weeks to get everything going again. I think people are going to get a little bit loose. I think it's going to kind of start happening, but we may not fully see Nashville until September. Who knows?
Definitely here, this is as a point of comparison. There have been some unheard of things have happened. Jazz Fest, which is arguably the biggest thing that happens all year, certainly in terms of, well, maybe next to Mardi Gras, terms of the number of people it brings to town, totally canceled for 2020. So that's a really big deal. Yeah, we're really all going to be feeling our way for a long time. I would be remiss if I didn't ask you to tell the folks how to find New Heights online. Obviously, we know it's in Nashville, but and maybe someday we can all come and visit.
Yep. So Nashville, Tennessee. We are just south of Broadway, 9 blocks. So we're just beyond walking distance of all the honky tonks, but we're outside of their realm. So, but newheightsbrewing.com. You can place orders if you're local. If not, come curbside and pick it up. And
if they're not local, can they buy a T-shirt online? You'll ship it to them?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Anything that we can ship. T-shirts, stickers, koozies, coasters, cups, glasses, hoodies, Frisbees, patches, whatever. So it's all on there.
Any final thoughts from you before I wrap it up and let you get back to your 2 kids?
Just ready for the world to open back up, man. Don't get me wrong. I am totally fortunate to have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old that I'm stuck in the house with that I get to spend more time with. Loving every minute of it. but at what cost? So it's time.
Look, I appreciate it. I'm going to just leave with a final thought, which is, as Jeff's been saying, as I've been saying with everybody I've talked to, if you can, get out there and support your local breweries, restaurants, and service industry folks wherever you live. And I know it's tough for everybody, and lots of folks have lost their jobs. But if you appreciate local, take every dollar you've got and throw it that way if you can. Well, Jeff, I appreciate you being with me today. Thanks for coming on. Always
Absolutely.
Good to have meet somebody new in the industry. So I want to thank everybody for being with me today on Beer Bearings, and I will see you next time. Take care. Thank you for joining me for my conversation with Jeff Fountain from New Heights Brewing up in Nashville, Tennessee. We talked about a lot of things, including his move from San Diego with a crew of business partners in tow to start the business. We also talked about some of the innovations they're getting into right now with the custom crowlers and those tea bags full of coconut and spice mixtures and things. And I'd be really curious to try one of those. Maybe someday I can get my hands on one. And also a little bit about what life is going to be like post-COVID. So I hope you enjoyed that. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this, and also more very strictly beer-related content coming down the line. Be on the lookout for that. I'm working on designing that right now, so I hope you'll enjoy that as well. Until then, drink better beer, wash your hands, and wear a mask. Talk to you soon.